Everybody, welcome to the No Post Game Show. Saints start the season 0-1 for the first time in 6 years, 7 years. It's relatively unfortunate, but like we said in the pregame show, that streak didn't come with any good seasons anyway. So, maybe starting 0-1 will be something that puts the chip back on these guys' shoulder to come out and play the right way. And the penalties alone are enough of a concern. I mean, you just can't win a lot of football games when not only you're committing penalties, right? False starts here and there are one thing, but a lot of those things came in an instance where it's 3rd and 8, and now you're looking at 3rd and 13, and it was 3rd and 1, and you get the tush push, and then it was 3rd and 6, and it's not necessarily for me about the amounts of penalties. It dives into the pure type of penalties, the timing of the penalties, and the things like that was the biggest concern for me coming from penalties. Immediate reaction vibes are that you know maybe Kellen Moore's still coaching some of these guys up. Maybe it's a matter of, you know, first game jitters. We can only hope because we cannot play football the rest of the season with 11 penalties. It's just not going to work. You'd have to score 40 points and have all 11 penalties be unsportsmanlike conduct to win football games with 11 penalties. But I digress. Like I said, it's the end of the 1-0 era, whatever that was and however long that lasted. We're here sitting at 0-1 after week one. But like I said, expectations of the team this season is, the Saints will never say that it's a rebuilding season, but I think most folks know that this is not the season where, we should sit here and expect 100%, professional athletes. Even though they are professional athletes, there's just some youth in places, some things that um, have changed and moved around. New head coach, Spencer Rattler wasn't named starting QB, and I think most of us knew it, but still, he wasn't named starting QB until a couple of days after the last preseason game and things like that. So, I think it all comes with a certain level of understanding of what's happening right now. I think for Saints fan, it was the way we lost, right? That was the unfortunate part. That was the part that um, I think hurts. It feels like these last couple of seasons have been almost wins, almost playoffs, almost this, almost that. It's really felt like ever since the New Orleans no call with Drew and Tommy Lee Lewis that it feels like one or two things could have went our way. That just didn't. Mark Ingram stepping out early that one year. It just feels like there's so many almost, and frankly, Juwan has to bring that down, and Rashid, that other one that there was a lot of hand contact and his one of his arms were held down, but he still could have caught that one. You have to help your young QB because if you don't, then you're going to be just like this. You're going to put up 13 points, and it's just not going to bode well. But there were positives, I think, and I think that's the biggest thing is you take away the 11 penalties and the timing of some of those penalties, and this is the game that the Saints are burning the clock at that last 2 minutes versus trying to win the game. You put that field goal on the board that Groupie missed. You're going down there for the win. You're not going down there for the tie. So, like I said, there are some positives that I think we can take from this game, and that's kind of what we're looking at for this season. And then you had an instance where Cam Jordan, I mean, I could probably talk about him for this entire 15 minutes that we normally do this post game show for because Cam was just elite today for being 36 years old and the end of his season, end of his career. I'm sorry, and he's got gray hair but he's out there playing like an absolute elite defender, and we all know he is. But at 36 to be doing that and knowing that he's going to play more snaps because Chase Young is down, you would almost expect him to come out a little more reserved, but he didn't. He came out ready to go, and I love that though because there was a time with Dennis Allen that I felt those veteran guys didn't play the way they should play, and they didn't have the aura that you would need them to have for your younger guys to come out and do something. But I think Cam did that. He just he showed everybody why the Saints fans have loved him for the past 15, 16 years. I think this is year 16. And, to be able to do it week one in the dome, gives me a little bit of faith in the defense. There were some times with the defense, it sounds kind of redundant to say, but it's like they were there when they should be and then weren't when they should be. It was just a couple of small things that it felt like if it wasn't Demario Davis or Cam around the ball, then we weren't sure what was going to happen, right? And I think the adjustment, it looks like they ended up leaving Kool-Aid on one person instead of getting him to travel with Marvin Harrison. That seemed like it was a good decision to make. Um, so that was nice to see, at least, that we had some uh, defenders out there, doing what they have to do, right? That was good to see. And like I said, when Demario or Cam were involved, it was for good reason, and that's what you want to see out of your veterans. We just need the young guys to surround them and to kind of do the same thing. But I digress. We're coming on to the guest portion here, and that's perfect because Kyle from the Dome discussion just topped in, so we're going to add him up, chat about it a little bit. What's going on, man? I think we saw exactly what we thought we were going to see game one, but
Yeah.
it was still a little disheartening to see the end because it was right there, right? You could have tied it up, or with the group you make, you could have won the game. But how you feeling after game one?
I'm all right. One thing that I've been very adamant about is I think Jawan Johnson's going to have a big part of the offense, and we saw he did, and the Saints relied on him to make the final play there. And he almost came down with it, came out of his hands. That's kind of a little heartbreaking there to see him drop that one. But other than that, it was a good game. I enjoyed watching the game. That's what I want to see from the Saints. No one's you don't expect much from them, but if you're going to lose, just be in the game. Lose by one score. Don't go out there and lose by 10, 15 every week. Show some competitiveness, and they did that on today. So that's the least that we wanted to see, and that they did it.
Yeah, and I think that for me, one of the biggest takeaways with the offense was the fact that you can't run up tempo for all four quarters, but there are times that you can run it, and there's also an offensive scheme that is just a little faster than normal. And Kellen Moore came from that with the Eagles. They're running up there doing the tush push on second down just to keep guys in there and not allow rotations. And I hope Moore brings some of that because Spencer to me looked infinitely more comfortable moving than he did waiting for something to happen. And like I said, you can't play 2-minute offense all four quarters, but I do think there's a level between playing the game a little bit slower and speeding it up. And I think after this one game, I'm convinced that Spencer needs the game to be a little faster. He may be kind of like adrenaline in his veins thing because on that third down play to Juwan, he lined up and he was ready to go, and he struck it, and he knew where he wanted to go. But then the next play after he had the incompletion and waited, it was just almost like he threw it up in the air, knowing Olave couldn't catch it, and just threw it out of bounds. And I know that was the play call, but I would rather him see him just stay aggressive. And you throw the interception over the middle, that's fine. The game's over. Like to play call one is kind of interesting there, but two is the fact that you know I just feel like Spencer needs the game to be a little bit faster. Maybe not in the sense of faster running, more intensive options on the offense, but just quicker. Get the play calls out quicker. Let him get into a groove because I feel like he never quite found his groove until those last couple of drives. And it could just be week one jitters, right? He's the starter now. It's not you're coming in because someone's injured. This is your job to lose now. It's not your job to win anymore. So we'll see how that goes. But the like I said, the good thing is we'll have another 0-1 contender with us to start the season. The Falcons are 0-1, the Bucks are 1-0, and the Panthers also lost. So are looking to lose. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say also lost. They're on the way, I think, to losing that game. So that's the only positive that I see is that it's week one. We're all figuring things out, and I have a lot more confidence that we're going to be competitive the whole season throughout this because the Cardinals have a heck of a defense. I mean, they hit hard, they run fast. Like it's the kind of defense that, dare I say, wins championships. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but the Cardinals are building a defense that does win championships. So that's a lot of fun to see. But yeah, any other quick takeaways? I know you got to hop over to the dome pretty soon here.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to evaluate what we saw from Rattler a little bit, and I agree. When he was going to fast offense, getting high tempo, he was making those plays, and he made a lot of plays with his legs when he needed to as well, which was really big for the Saints. For me, that's great, but that's mostly you're getting the opposing defense out of whack. They don't know what's going on. There was one time in the broadcast you heard someone on the D line for the Cardinals yell, "What's the call?" So I mean, the Saints were doing a good job of getting that, but I'm ready to see Rattler what he can do when he's got all 11 in front of him. He's got his 11 over here. Dissect the defense, and he did it well, and he got the ball out quick. But we didn't see any of those deep shots, and honestly, the offense became 5-4 yards, and that's what the league is now with two high safeties. So it's not like this is some big surprising thing that teams don't want to give up the big shots. They want you to run the ball, so they're going to run two high safety and make you take what's underneath. And Rattler did that well. He got the ball out quick. He made decisions quick. And when we saw him go deep, almost through that interception, luckily got called back for something that happened on the complete other side of the field. But I think he did what he needed to do well. But I would like to see something a little more, and maybe it goes to play calling again, where going for something a little further than this 4-yard dumps, and then you're getting yourself into third and 2 territory, and you absolutely need it now.
I'll speak on the NFL of today part that you said, with the fact that they want you to take those underneath, they want you to run the ball. I'm just kind of shocked that, you're week one with your quarterback who was named a starter, you know, 9 days ago, 6 days ago, whatever it was. I know Spencer Rattler's not a rookie, but he hasn't had a lot of game time experience. And you're against a hard hitting, very well built secondary in the Cardinals. And the fact that uh AK only had, I think, 11 carries. Spencer and even though I think only one was a designed run for Spencer, but the other four that he had matched Kendre Miller's touches. It feels a little weird to me that you have such a dynamic backfield, and I know you guys said it in the chat and we posted something about it. This is going to be a fun backfield, but we just didn't see him a whole lot. I don't know. Let's see, we ran um, a total of 69 plays, and we had 17 carries by running backs. That's not good, in my opinion, with a young quarterback, and especially an offensive line and we were never out of this game to the point where we had to start throwing from behind. So that was a little confusing. Hopefully they figure that out because, you nailed it. Kamara got the touchdown. Like I said, I was expecting a little more from Brandon Cooks, especially because I figured they weren't going to use Vele very much, being that he's a new addition. I think we'll see more of him in the next couple of games, but I thought Brandon Cooks was going to come out, a man possessed, because he knows he's probably going to be sharing minutes with a big body receiver, being that we already have the speedy guy in Rashid. But yeah, so it's there's a lot to take away from this game that's good. And I personally think the only truly bad thing that we can take from this game is those penalties have to be cleaned up. I spoke on that before you hopped in here, but I mean, you're not going to win. Like I said, you're not going to win any games unless you're putting up 40 points and your 11 penalties is you talking trash and getting unsportsmanlike conduct. That's the only way you're going to win with 11 penalties. That's a lot of penalties for a young team to face, even at home. On the road, your penalties are going to be a little higher normally, but at home, you're getting false starts. That's just bad football, and that's a rough pill to swallow. But that's probably the only bad thing. If you had to nitpick, do you see anything else there, or was it just penalties for you too?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one thing for the penalties for sure, that's the worst thing that we saw at the game. We also saw quite a few of injuries, which is never fun. Fuaga left the game, never came back. Olave was getting put in harm's way quite a bit. I don't put that against Olave at all. I know a lot of people have an opinion on Olave. I don't think that's on his body. Those were terrible balls or terrible decisions, hospital balls. They put him in bad position. Some people have different opinions on it. I still think Kellen Moore should have taken some of those timeouts. That's one of the big things there. Some people say, well, it's a young quarterback. I get it, but it's the quarterback you chose and you want to win the game. You don't want to, play safe or whatever. You're trying to develop these guys. You're trying to put them in situations, keeping them and keeping them leashed and not letting them loose is kind of a problem there. Again, I would have loved to see the penalties. I mean, I'm sorry, the timeouts get called there, give him a chance, and then on the flip side, let's see how not Kamara, how Kellen Moore can get this team ready because 11 penalties is terrible. So how can they
Yeah.
prepare for it next week? They're at home again next week against the 49ers. Will they be able to get it right then?
Yep. Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, this has been the post game show from the Know. I am Ethan Myers with the Know. That is Kyle with the Know and Dome discussions. They are going to record right now. It's not live, but they're still going to record. That episode should be out tomorrow, or we're thinking
Yes,
tonight
sir.
if
It'll be
possible.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, cool. Yeah, so that'll be out tomorrow. So we got Cajun Tiger over here making jokes about Garrett Nuss. His dad's here, so who knows? But yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're back next week for pre and post game show. This has been Ethan with the Know, and like I said, be on the lookout for that new episode for Dome Discussions podcast. Thank y'all, and Who Dat.